peace negotiations. The last 10 meters to the objective are the hardest, says Keith Kellogg. Truly so, but who's to walk it? Ukrainian war drone manufacturer, Europe have created a new religion which main dogma is, don't call a war, and it will go away. A hybrid war is the war in which Putin wants to divide the unity of the West and deprive Ukraine of any aid. Look deeper into our story for more details. When it's about war and peace somewhere distant else, things are always easy to assess. Then any peace is better than any war. As simple as that. And the analogies that come to describe this simplicity also come easy, crystal clear, and simple.
The last 10 meters to objective is always the hardest. I think we are at the last 10 meters of trying to end this conflict. I think we are really down to a couple of issues, mostly on terrain, which is primarily Donbas, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhzhia Oblast, as well as Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Keith Kellogg, Donald Trump's special envoy.
It is that easy only when it's war and peace matter, in a land far, far away from your place, hidden behind a big, beautiful ocean. Then, indeed, it is a peace in general. Then you can afford generalization of your terms and assessments. Then all these 10 meters to the objective. Analogies come if these are not really your objectives, and you are not walking these 10 meters. And this is not your terrain you are about to trade. So to stop the war as soon as possible, and at any cost, cause that is not you paying it. Ukraine is, in blood, land, and own sovereignty. However, he closer the wolf is to your door, the more the war turns personal for you, the more inevitably you realize all wars of humankind take roots in previous wars that were stopped but did not end. That hold button might seem a lucrative option for you to push it today, as it would invoke the obvious, undeniable, and instant good. It would stop the bloodshed. However, what you prefer not to see and the aggressor will never say aloud, as it is the aggressor's greatest secret weapon. Whoever today stops this war on the aggressor terms lays the foundations of next war, giving the aggressor a long-awaited respite and a chance to regroup, thus summoning new loop of hostilities at inevitably higher, escalated, multifold amplified destruction scale in future. So go on as a dominant world power and negotiate best terms for the aggressor so to find out, just as it has always been the case throughout the course of humankind history. Monsters are called monsters for a reason, and that reason is monsters cannot be appeased or talked sense to. Monsters can only be defeated, or, effectively, surrendered to, forcing the victim of monsters' aggression into unwanted peace deal, thus rewarding the aggressor and strangling the loop of future war over Europe's neck.
The way you put it, Ben Hodges, makes it sound historic and alarming. Is that what it is?
Well, historic in terms of American failure, turning our back on not only our allies of over 80 years, but also damaging ourselves. I mean, for all these years, our European allies have given us access with bases, intelligence sharing. We've served together in so many different theaters. We've stood shoulder by shoulder in diplomatic circles, and now this is the giant middle finger to that Europe by this administration, understandably making a priority defense of the homeland in Western Hemisphere and Indo-Pacific. That's not new. What's new is clearly this is about spheres of influence, and for the Trump administration, Europe is not going to be that sort of strategic interest to us anymore.
While the U.S. might indeed be showing any, fingers to us in Europe or not, one thing is certain. Every cloud has a silver lining. Voluntarily or not, Europe is forced to reality, with U.S. obviously leaning away from transatlantic unity that lasted 80 years today. At some point, Europe will be forced to answer that wake-up call and grasp a grim reality. The war is here already, no matter in what politically correct turns, too, are wrapping it up. I recently read an article written by someone who was a presenter at the Rebuild Ukraine conference, a prominent Ukrainian journalist, Oleksandr Yakovenko. He says the participants would gladly listen, come up to him, and tell him in a hushed tones, as if admitting betrayal. It was very powerful indeed, but we can only invest in dual-use technologies. Investing directly into military capabilities is too toxic for our current mandate. Yakovenko would argue that, effectively, Europe have created a new religion, which main dogma can be summed up as, don't call a spade, and the problem will go away. It's a kind of 21st century infantile shamanism. If you start calling a munitions factory a dual-use technology hub, then Russian dictator Putin won't notice it. And if, God forbid, you say aloud military budget, then you admit the bare fact, Europe is already at war.
Russia didn't fail to take Kiev in 3 days because it's weak. It failed because it ran up against us, against people who don't ask permission to defend their homes. It ran up against people who, in 3 days, created the biggest volunteer army in recent European history. Against people who came out against tanks with Molotov cocktails, then javelins, which you were reluctant to give us for a very long time. Russia ran up against people who didn't give up a single major city without battle. People who drove the occupiers out from the Kyiv and Kharkiv suburbs, from Kherson, and from the north of the country, after the rest of the world already buried us in their predictions. Oleksandr Yakovenko, founder of the Enliv UA Corporate Investment Fund, war drones manufacturer, volunteer.
When Russian tanks advance on Suwalki, and you are once again looking for political solutions, remember this moment, says Yakovenko. By then, it will be too late to explain to your children why Warsaw is burning and NATO turned out to be a paper tiger. While we in Ukraine might respect Yakovenko's opinion very much, still, the opinion is an opinion, no more, but also no less. So we decided to literally announce a call to action for you. Please share your opinion with us in a comment section below, answering the question, is American newly adopted NSS urging EU to grasp reality? Europe is already at war? A hybrid war is the same kind of war in which Putin pursues the triple goal dividing the unity of the West, to distance the US from Europe and the countries of Europe from each other and everyone from Ukraine. Find out more about how successful Russian dictator is in the story we've prepared for you.
Germany is deploying fighter jets to Poland to protect NATO's eastern flank. Together with the aircraft, the Bundeswehr is sending around 150 servicemen, including pilots, technicians, logisticians, and military police, writes the German newspaper Welt. The deployment is a response to recent incidents involving Russian fighters violating airspace in the Baltic Sea region and drones penetrating NATO member states' territory.
Our Rapid Reaction Squadron will reinforce NATO forces. The pilots will conduct enhanced air policing over this part of Alliance territory. Our mission will last about 4 months.
The accession of Sweden and Finland to NATO has strengthened the alliance's positions in the North and the Baltic Sea region, leading to a restructuring of command, said Supreme Allied Commander Europe, Alexis Grinkowicz. Hybrid threats from Russia are a real problem that the alliance intends to counter.
We saw the UAS events and spilling over into Poland. Recently, we've seen the sabotage on the Polish railway. All of those things are part of this hybrid network of activity. Some of it reckless, some of it intentional, but it doesn't really matter to me. It's something that we have to be able to respond to. So first off, I think it's important that we attribute it and that we say that, yeah, we know that Russia is behind some of this, maybe not all of it, but certainly some of it. And our public should know that. They should also know that we've got this. This doesn't represent an existential threat to anything that the alliance is doing. It's not undermining our unity. We're able to respond and manage it.
NATO must be ready to respond to growing hybrid threats in order to protect the territory of its member states, Grinkowicz believes. Hybrid threats involve both military and non-military tactics designed to undermine an opponent's security and usually include cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, sabotage of critical infrastructure, and the use of drones or irregular armed formations.
We also do think about being proactive is the word I would use. In other words, if Russia is attempting to provide dilemmas to us, then maybe there are ways that we could provide dilemmas to them. And I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to get into the specifics of how we might be providing those dilemmas. But again, your comment that, hey, we are a defensive alliance is absolutely true. There's nothing offensive about this. This is about defending every inch of alliance territory.
Russia plans to intensify hybrid attacks inside Ukraine as well, aiming to sow discord between the military, the authorities, and society, the Center for Countering Disinformation reports. Ukraine has united Europe in the face of Russian aggression, and in turn counts on support during the peace process and security guarantees going forward. This was stated by President Volodymyr Zelensky during a joint press conference with Cypriot President Nikos Christodoulidis.
Europe is now developing a new global role for itself. Everything that has happened in the last 4 years shows that Europe's role must be truly significant. This depends on every nation and every leader. Ukraine has given Europe an important unifying impulse, and this energy is working for European strength, and it will continue to do so. We count on European society standing with Ukraine to achieve peace and provide reliable security guarantees.
On 19th November, the European Commission College approved a package of proposals to improve military mobility in the EU, facilitating rapid and unimpeded movement of troops, equipment, and military assets across Europe. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas emphasized that adopting the document will enable faster movement of forces and equipment when necessary. Lithuania, Belgium, Czechia, Germany, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Poland, and Slovakia signed a letter of intent on ensuring military mobility in the central, northern, and eastern regions. Reported by Victoria Chistukina, UATV News.
That's all for now. Stay sharp and stay informed. If you found this useful, hit subscribe, drop a comment, and hit the bell. It really helps. Take care, and see you in the next digest.